Sure. One easy way to do this is like this. If you do that once, then you can see the wave on both of them.
Okay, can you do that again? I'm actually putting everything.
Okay, sure. Doesn't matter.
So today's guest is Tim. I only met him twice.
Yeah.
But you remembered me. I was surprised.
Sure.
How do you remember me?
I mean, I think because of internet presence, I think I've seen pictures of you with people I know and shit like that. Yeah, and...
Did you see me on the street too?
Probably, yeah.
I saw you on the street because you stand out.
Yeah, I suppose so. People fucking tell me that all the time. They're like, hey Tim, I saw you walking your dog over here. Or like, hey Tim, I saw you at that place. That happens to me like a few times a week. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that information? You know, like, it's like, I don't want to know that people are watching me from every direction. It's weird. I don't know. It's like
Or I'll just let you introduce yourself, what you do. Because I don't fully know what you do other than this.
So, go. Okay. Well, I suppose I suppose I'm an entrepreneur in one sense of the word, and I opened a language school that was a prototype for a kind of concept that I had about 5 years ago, and then I supported like a few people to build their own businesses, and then more recently I opened a cafe with a business partner of mine. Yeah, and then I do a little bit of consulting, like business consulting here and there, and just recently I'm kind of, putting some time into doing picture books, and in the hopes that in the future I can kind of slowly wean myself onto doing something a little bit more creative, which is kind of what I have the most confidence in, I suppose.
Creative, like what?
Well,
Picture books?
Yeah, well, that's it, because I was a musician for years and years, and that's just, pure creativity work. But I think that my best, the part of me that I think expresses myself the best is always been writing. Not that it's something I've ever done a lot of.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, as a kid I was really, really into it, and I just have a natural kind of talent for making silly ideas. And just writing stupid stories, and like I think I'm always fairly happy with how it goes, and I think if I can slowly get that back into my life, even if it's just like a total straight up amateur kind of thing, then it could be fun, And
you do a lot of things.
I do. I'm pretty kind of stoic in the way I live day to day, and I do the same things every day, eat the same things every day, have the same routine, wake up at the same minute. It's always
You have the most important ritual in a day?
Well, I have rituals that I can't avoid. I mean, because I have a dog, and the dog decides to some extent when I wake up.
Right.
Yeah. So like today, well, like every day, get up at 5:30, and then go for a walk for about an hour and kind of work through the morning anxiety. And kind of level it all out. That's my way of doing that, and then think about what I've got to do for the day and things like that.
What's the morning anxiety like when you say it?
Well, I think anybody who has certain levels of anxiety and also drinks a lot, the mornings are kind of a recovery time.
Okay.
And that's how I deal with that. The walk is kind of like a leveling out of what's real and what's not real anxiety, and if the stress is kind of based on something or not. And then it's kind of my reset button for my brain.
You strike me as a go-getter. Like, you do all these businesses, and I don't know much about your personal life, but you have a lot of things going on. It seems like to me, and you have a lot of confidence. In my eyes, I only met you twice, but so I wonder what makes you anxious when you say anxiety.
Sure. I think that it's not. The thing about anxiety and you know, my whole family has it, and
Clinical?
I think, yeah, very much so. It's not based on anything. There's no
Okay.
reason for it. I mean, it can be triggered by something, but it's just like waves of predestined something. You know,
What?
it's not caused by anything. It's just sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Okay.
So I feel like if I can give it the space to think through it and try to think about when it's bad, you know, is it based on something? Is there something I'm missing? Usually when it's really bad, it's because I'm not exercising or I'm not studying or I'm not doing one of the things that kind of pulls my sense of self together. And usually for me, I've kind of whittled it down to 3 activities that I do every day. I exercise and I study and I work. And usually when I'm feeling very bad, one of those 3 things isn't happening.
Okay.
But then, you know, every day to some extent, I kind of just have to reset. And I suppose it's kind of my form of meditation in a way. I've never been able to meditate, and it doesn't really fit me. But I think that while moving and my little dog doing funny shit, I can kind of bring myself back down to 0, you know. Yeah. That's
You
the way.
started the business in Japan. I figure it's like pretty difficult thing to do. I assume your level of Japanese is good. How advanced is your Japanese? Because I haven't really heard.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, I would never say that. I don't know. It's good enough that I am happy with it.
Yeah.
So
Can you do all the business like stuff with people? Can you use like business Japanese?
yeah, I mean, I can speak Keigo and I can, you know, be polite. I mean, I get out of areas of comfort when it's too kind of. I mean, I often apologize because I'm not sure of the correct way to say something politely, but then always, you know, get the message across.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, for the most part, until quite recently, my private life has been only in Japanese.
Yeah.
So
Until what this?
well, just recently, for the first time in a really long time, I'm spending time with foreigners again. And it was
Past few years.
yeah, you know, until that, it was pretty much, I was just functioning as a Japanese guy.
That's the way to go.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it was just the way things went. I kind of divorced myself from my English self in order to learn Japanese. And then that kind of just, you know, my brain started functioning more often than not in Japanese. Even now, like I notice it, especially I got a dog about a year ago, and I realized that because I talk to him without, you know, thinking about what I'm saying, it's a really interesting way of measuring how much of my day I've spent thinking in Japanese.
Right. So you
Because-
talk to the dog in Japanese?
In both, yeah. Like
Both.
it's a mixture of things, and it depends what I'm doing. You know, like if he, I don't know, you could explain it simply. Like when he attacks me and I'm like working out or something, maybe that'll be in English, and when he attacks me when I'm studying Spanish, maybe it's in Spanish. And but I really notice that more often than not, it's Japanese that's going through my head now, and I think that, you know, my level of Japanese, it'll never be perfect, but I think it's at a point now where
You can think in that language.
yeah, well, I don't ever have any trouble in Japanese, and I think if you can make people laugh, and if you can, you know, talk to an architect or an accountant, I think it's enough to get by, you know.
How did you study Japanese?
Well, there's a few kind of online resources that helped a lot. There's one called All Japanese All the Time.
Japanese all the time.
Yeah, there's a study method there that kind of basically you're using the things that you enjoy anyway to study, whether that be music or books or movies or anime or manga or anything. And then, you know, I brought together a few other elements from a few other study methods and kind of made my own way of doing it. But basically, my Japanese is all from, for the most part, comic books and then comedians.
Comedians?
Is how I learned Japanese.
All right,
yeah.
I want to ask you about that. Japanese comedy, like I love stand-up comedy, but Western stand-up comedy, and I noticed like after I discovered the world of stand-up comedy, I just realized how more craftsmanship were put in my opinion.
Sure.
I was shocked how they construct the joke and how you build up and drop it, and you do that all by yourself. What do you think about Japanese comedy? Because I don't have many friends who actually can watch Japanese comedy, like advanced enough to watch it. So what do you think about the Japanese comedy? Difference?
I mean, I really enjoy Japanese comedy. I mean, I would say that, I mean, I grew up with Western comedy, so, you know, of course there's a lot of it that I enjoy and there's a lot of it that I don't. Japanese comedy, for me, it's more specific comedians that I like or I don't like. My Japanese is based on Matsumoto Hitoshi.
Right.
Because I needed to study Kansai Ben because I live in Himeji. And that was the choice I kind of made.
Before you came here.
No. I only studied when I started when I came here.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, how many years ago that?
That's, I suppose, this is my 11th year.
Oh, wow. Okay. You're a unicorn.
Yeah. I've been here forever. Yeah, but the comedians thing, like, I think it's very different, you know, types of comedy and whereas stand-up comedy is the most popular form. I mean, you have sketch shows and you have cartoons and a few other things, but for the most part, I think the world's most popular form is the stand-up comedy, and it's interesting that doesn't exist here. I mean, really. There's Suberanai Hanashi and there's like...
Sorry?
Suberanai Hanashi.
Like,
okay. There's stuff that is similar, or there's like talk raibu, but that's...
Manzai.
Well, Manzai, I think Manzai is its own form, and
it is.
And Rakugo and like all these kind of really, how would you put it? Really kind of, they have a template. I think all these comedy forms.
True.
I think the one that everybody has is like sketch shows. Sketch shows exist in Japan, and they exist, you know, when there's like Gotsei Kanji and then all Banana Man stuff and all, there's, you know, heaps of them. But I think that Japanese comedy can be a little bit more rigid than Western comedy.
What does that mean?
It means it's more, the format is more decided. Say Manzai, there's very certain steps.
True.
Like
you can kind of expect what happens.
Yeah, and it's also much more rehearsed. Like I think it's there's much more technique involved. I think.
You think so?
Yeah, I think comedians in the West they work on their comedy by improvising parts of it and slowly over time adjusting the jokes more and more. I think that of course must exist in Manzai and other forms, but less and less. I mean, take for example like Rakugo. I can't watch it just because it's so rehearsed. Like there's nothing in that is
absolutely
you know, improvised or kind of creative, and I'm not interested in that at all. But say, yeah, like the old sketches, like I suppose especially Gotsei Kanji, where it's kind of really rough and you know, they laugh and just say stupid shit to make each other laugh that's obviously not in the script.
Gotsei Kanji, what is that?
Gotsei Kanji.
Gotsei Kanji.
So that's like Downtown's original sketch show.
Sketch show?
From ages ago. It's like I don't know. It's before they started doing, as far as I understand, it's before they started doing Waratte and those kinds of series that made them famous. And you can tell that they've been given a lot of creative freedom, and they do like shit that you would never be able to put on television. You'll probably never be able to put on television ever again. Like really like stuff that's like. Yeah,
I can list like an example.
Like there's so many examples. Like there's this really amazing, like reoccurring sketch they do called Gorenja or Gorenjai.
Right.
And it's like a takeoff of like that superhero Japanese like Power Rangers shit.
Power Rangers.
Yeah. And it's just it's a really the premise is that like the bad guy is attacking this girl, but I mean the beginning of every time is he tries to rape her.
Oh.
And that in that setting it seems natural for that time, I'm sure.
Right.
But there's just no way you could ever
Right.
approach that now in a comedy show. And then like they break in, the five of them, and they've always got something wrong. Like two of them are the same color, or like they've not thought it through. Like it's like the kind of the way they go about it is that the bad guy is like an older comedian who's yelling at the younger comedians for not doing things right.
Yeah.
And being really frightening and really angry. And they're trying to explain how they came to the decisions that they came to. And it's just this, I don't know, it's just this kind of them going through different versions of how they get it wrong with each episode. And then there's like ones where they're all just got massive tits and like all this crazy shit. Like it just, I know it's very creative and it's very silly. And I really love people who do really silly things in a really well thought out, serious way. And that was a great example of that. And then Matsumoto Hitoshi went on to do like Hitorigotsu, which is just him by himself doing shit. And then, I mean, there's so many other things I've enjoyed most of the things he's done, but then there's like Ippon Grand Prix, which is like Ippon Grand Prix. Ippon. It's like there's odai, and they give their answer to it like on the spot, like really quickly. And if it's funny, they get a point. And it's a really simple premise, but in terms of like how quick the minds are, like the comedians, some of them, it's amazing how quickly they can construct quite complex like comedic ideas. And like there's shows like that which really do genuinely show that Japanese comedians are the real shit. Like they're
really
fucking intelligent and like have an amazing sense of what they're doing. Yeah.
I always felt like it was the opposite. Interesting.
The thing is, if you don't, you can be exposed to all the wrong kinds of Japanese comedy very easily because the shit on television, Japanese television in general is fucking terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
Very low level in terms of kind of creativity and like force feeding people really bland kind of.
Yeah, I stopped watching
ideas.
TV when I was like 15 in the summer or something.
Yeah, it's totally worth doing. I think television is poison, and yeah, if you can choose the inputs that you have in life, I think that's a really important kind of thing.
Yeah, I started like choosing to watch. Well, growing up, I already had like YouTube and shit like that, so I was able to.
Shit, so you must be a lot younger than I thought you were.
28.
Okay, go.
How old did you think I was?
I thought I'd guessed about 31, I suppose. But I suppose even when I was young, YouTube must have existed.
How old were you? Are you now?
Now I'm 34. But I also grew up in a really kind of. I grew up. Yeah.
Talk about it, please.
Sorry?
Talk about how you came to Japan and before how you grew up and all that. 'Cause
Okay.
You mentioned circus.
Oh God, yeah. Like I don't know. I grew up with hippie parents, and I was homeschooled, and I was brought up away from civilization, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So never owned a TV, never had radio. Pretty much didn't eat sugar and salt for most of my childhood. Yeah, like had like massive amounts of music exposure and massive amounts of books and like written stuff that my dad had. Like very intelligent, like science fiction stuff, and like, and he was into jazz and classical music, and from that came kind of my music practice and interest in that side of things. But very much a sheltered kid.
Sheltered, what does that mean?
Sheltered means that I wasn't exposed to other children or like kind of, I suppose you'd say modern culture in a way. Like I didn't really, I went to school eventually. I think when I was 8, I started going to school.
What was it like?
So it was horrific. It was the most terrible thing I can imagine. I hated school the whole time.
What happened?
Well, just forced to do stuff. Like I only have one thing I'm good at, and it's making stuff, making ideas, and it's the one thing that you're not allowed to do at school, and it was torture. It was torture from the beginning until the end, and I missed about a quarter of each year just from like running away or like hiding from the school bus and shit like that. I didn't learn anything in school at all, and it was a total waste of time. Yeah, but it meant that I happened to, I don't know, have enough kind of resources to start playing music seriously.
Yeah.
And the school teachers kind of, I think, realized that they were never going to get through to me with any kind of academic stuff. So they kind of let me do what I wanted, and I just played music all the time. And I mean, yeah, not that I was great at it or like anything like that, but I just, I don't know, I was just really, it was the one thing that I really felt like myself when I was doing it at school.
What kind of music that you resonated with?
Yeah, well, I suppose because I was exposed to so much jazz and classical, that's always been kind of the basis of what I was interested in. That said, like jazz in the term that I understand it is a little bit different from what most people think of when they think of that word. Like the jazz in the city that I'm from, well, I eventually went to, I was born in the countryside, but eventually I escaped into Melbourne and went to music university there. And the music and what they call jazz there is a very different kind of thing. It's very pretty and very melodic and emotional sounding. I don't have any way to really explain it, but yeah, that was always the music that resonated with me. And I also listened to a lot of like world music, like music from different cultures and like a lot of I don't know what you'd say, like traditional folk music, like Mongolian music and like
I dig
little,
that too.
yeah, Spanish cultures and stuff like that. Like I got into a lot of stuff, and I'm a real consumer of stuff. So like when I was into music, it meant that I had, you know, thousands and thousands of CDs and thousands of stuff, little things that I found, and it's all I did. So I just became really knowledgeable, and then it became books, and I was just thousands and thousands of books. And then it became comic books when I came to Japan, and I ended up with, I don't know, like 3,000-4,000 comic books. And
holy shit.
Yeah.
The physical books?
Physical books, yeah. I just go through stages of getting interested in something and then just consume all of it. And then move on to the next thing. And that's the way it's always been. Just recently, I suppose, since I've opened the school, it's become more kind of output based. It's all like
what based? Sorry.
Output. So
output.
Yeah, like I suppose since I started doing businesses, I think it's kind of my turn to turn around and put ideas back out as a basis of how to live. I think. You know, use what I've learned through all this stuff to kind of expose people to ideas they wouldn't otherwise come across. Yeah, I feel like I have a certain responsibility to do that, to kind of supply the shigeki to other people now.
What do you say shigeki in English?
Fuck, that's a good question. You could say like stimulus, but it's not quite the same.
Really?
Yeah, shigeki is a much better word. Shigeki has a bit more like punch. Like shigeki is also like dageki, and it's like, you know, it's like punch. Yeah, it's like a force, and stimulus is a bit technical and scientific sounding. It's like, you know, stimulating cells so that they, you know, do
I can think of some words that I can't describe in Japanese, some English words that I think would be I would say impossible to recreate the nuance. Meaning, the nuance that the original word has. Any other Japanese words like that you can think of?
There's tons of them. Like, there's the really obvious ones. Like, I mean, the really like beta one is itadakimasu and gochiso.
Itadakimasu. Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't exist as a cultural thing. And then there's the ones that are quite genuinely annoying. Like there's like no real hisachiburi in English.
You think so?
Yeah. You can say, you know, it's been ages, or I haven't seen you in a long time and shit like that. But it's just, yeah, but they're all like, the grammar is a little bit off, or the feeling is a little bit off. It's just a better way of saying it. I also like a lot of Japanese words are short and have a real punch. Like, especially in Kansai, you can just say samu or atsu. And these words are very short but very weighty. One of my favorite Japanese words is shine, which is like
die.
Die. I mean, it's like, it just, you should die. but it's such a punchy little word, you know. It's just it's
I guess so.
yeah.
But I get like I'm so used to like speaking English to people that when I want to say fuck you or go fuck yourself, stuff like that, I get frustrated because I can't find a word that sound like that in Japanese though.
Sure.
You could say shine, but it's a bit different. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not a really. I suppose I've never been like a fighter in a way. I've never been an aggressive person. So Japanese, to a large extent, kind of suits me in terms of like how angry I want to be at any one point. But it does have rough language, and I do enjoy that too. I think I'm very lucky to have kind of the Japanese version of myself has grown up in Kansai, which is a much rougher, warmer kind of dialect.
I used to hate Kansai people because I had a bias. Because the first job I had when I was like 15, they opened up this new teppanyaki place. How do you describe teppanyaki though, by the way?
It's like a big hot plate that they do like okonomiyaki or steak, or depending on how much you're spending, it's usually cube steak and shit like that if it's really expensive.
Right. Yeah. That kind of stuff, okonomiyaki. And obviously, the company was from Kansai because Kansai is famous for that kind of food. And all the employees and bosses were Kansaijin, and they always kick me out, like physically just kick me when I do something wrong. I just hated them. They sound harsh too. Like these fucking Kansai people.
Yeah.
I really hated them. Obviously, that's a bias.
Sure, but
I only met them, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Kansai Tokyo thing. I mean, I'd like to, it is a thing. They are different, and I am. I don't know. I could have landed in any place really, but I'm happy that I landed here.
Yeah.
And you get to pick and choose as a foreigner as well, because you don't naturally have any dialect, so you can kind of weave together whatever parts of it you like and you don't like. And there are parts of Kansai Ben that I use Kansai Ben as a base. My language base was built on Matsumoto Hitoshi, which means it's Osaka Ben. Right. But then there's other parts that I put in, like I don't use like Tokyo Ben's keigo. I use Kyoto no, like tabete haru or nanishite hanno and things like that, which means it's a bit more soft and a bit more kind of it doesn't put up a wall as much, Like,
could you say that again? What do you say in
like,
Kyoto Ben?
In Kyoto Ben, instead of saying like 食べられる or 召し上がる or like all these really complicated forms, they would just say 食べはる. It's just 食べてはる. Like instead of what are you eating, they would say 何食べてはんの? And I think that's just a much kind of softer and kind of, I don't know, I just like it more. It doesn't make it sound cold and like clinical.
Kyoto people are known for really being cold.
In a way, yeah. I mean, just taking
soft
bits of the culture and cool. Kind of Frankensteining it all together,
Is that a word?
No, it's definitely not a word.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
I love that. So after you went to school, and we're gonna skip a lot, but like, how did you end up in Japan?
Sure. So I went to a music uni, which is quite intense.
In what way?
It's a very hard one to get into. And for musicians in Australia, there are kind of two main universities, and they're kind of there's a rivalry between them. But for the most part, I think the one that I was lucky enough to go to is kind of the one that everyone wants to go to.
Sure.
And it's really, really like, the second you get in there, you look around and you think, how the fuck did I get into this place? Like, these guys are monsters. Like, they're just the most talented, interesting and down-to-earth people they pick and choose in a really specific way. And it was an amazing place and an amazing experience. And the first time, I think, in my life where I felt like I was surrounded by people who were similar to me. Yeah, but it made me work really hard. Like, that really, once you realize that you're the fucking, shittiest fish in a big group of fish, then you just have to do whatever it takes to stay with them, because you want to talk to them and you want to hang out, and you don't want to be a pariah. And yeah, anyway, so I was there and met, a whole bunch of people, and they were lovely and really, like, some of the best people I've ever met in my life. And amongst them, there was one girl who, she was going to school in the day and then bartending every night until the morning, and then doing all the shit we were doing, but on top of that, doing a full-time job as well.
Wow.
Which is absolutely out of this world, because even what we were doing at school was already way too difficult for any normal human being. And yeah, we got to talking a lot and became closer and closer, and then eventually kind of became a couple. And she had been in Australia for, I think, 11 years.
Oh, wow.
But she's originally from Japan, from Himeji.
From Himeji.
Yeah. So, I don't know, it's kind of a long story, but we came here on holiday and kind of both thought that we could create some of the things that we wanted to do here more easily.
Originally, what was that?
Well, we thought we were going to do a cafe straight off the bat.
Okay.
But just like, because I couldn't speak Japanese when we came back here with that in mind, but I had zero Japanese, and I was a fucking burden to everyone around me, and it was really frustrating for everybody involved, especially her. And then, yeah, I don't know, we kind of just, it was too much for us. We were both very independent people, and for me to be kind of weak and helpless was didn't just kill the relationship.
Okay. After you moved here?
Yeah. So I think we were together for about a year and a half, and then it kind of ended in a kind of explosion. And then I kind of worked on the Japanese. I think I studied for about 3 years with manga and stuff like that. And then, I don't know, she went on to open a bar first, and then I went on to do the school. We kind of helped out to do a chocolate shop. There's a chocolate shop in Himeji that we kind of helped support to get done. And then eventually we opened the Cafe Smash together.
Right, downstairs.
Yeah. So we're very close now, even maybe more so than we were before.
Okay.
But yeah, we're very, very independent, and we're just kind of business partners now, and it's great.
You said she's like a family member.
Yeah, that's exactly how it feels. It feels like she's the one that I talk to when shit really goes down. But, we don't have any kind of pressure, because we're not like romantically together, and I don't know, it's one of those weird, random, like, two kind of things fit together really well, and it's the best situation that it could have been.
You said you were married?
Yeah. So when we were in Australia, her visa was going to end, and we still wanted to stay in Australia at that point. And I went through a lot of kind of different, like, ways of, like, I think we got a lawyer for a while to see if they could choose the type of visa that we should go for. Not do any of the documents or any of the work, but he quoted us 5,000 Australian dollars, which is 5,000 American dollars, just to choose the visa, and it was just impossible. And I spent like 6 months reading visa documentation, and there's no way around it. So it was just like, oh fuck it, let's just get married then. And it became this kind of fun thing that we did, and we had this like wedding that was just all of our really close friends. We just booked out a bar that we love, and we just got really drunk. And yeah, I don't know, that was I was married. I think for the most part I felt like it was always just a boyfriend girlfriend thing, but
what did you say?
I think that especially at the beginning we just felt like we were a boyfriend and girlfriend who were doing this for a visa. I mean, we got very close, and we eventually just got used to saying husband and wife. But I don't know. I think that compared to that time, I think we're closer now. And yeah, I don't know. I've been really lucky with the people around me. I always have been. And yeah, she's an amazing person. She's such a motherfucker that I have to make sure that I'm putting in the work. Because if I don't put in the work, I can't look her in the eyes. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have absolute monsters around, you know.
I recently had a similar experience. I split with my ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of started and ended the similar way.
Okay.
So I can relate. But anyway, I wanted to ask you something about you have this presence. You have this like charismatic presence. I'm not sure if people tell you that. Do people tell you that?
I don't know. I think I'm a fairly weird dude in Australia as well.
Sure.
And I'm less. It's a weird thing because I grew up in a kind of weird way, and I have done a lot of things, and I'm always moving. So I feel like especially since I've come to Japan and done businesses and stuff, I've kind of settled down as a person a lot. And I think that comes across pretty strongly. I think, whereas, like, say 10 years ago, I was a weird, jittery, kind of anxious person.
Yeah.
I think, oh yeah,
It's
very
hardly
much so.
much me.
When I was a kid, it was a nightmare to talk to. Like, I was so shy, but so weird at the same time. Like,
Right.
just doing shit that just didn't fit with normal people, you know? And I was always like that. I wasn't the cool weird kid. I was the weird kid that nobody wanted to fucking hang around with, you know? Like,
Yes. Okay.
and then I suppose through music, I met a lot of people who were also weird, but still had a lot of anxiety and stuff. And then once I did the Japanese, and I felt like it was the first thing I really kind of finished and could put like a full stop. And I was also doing boxing at the same time, and that helped a lot. Like that was the first time I was ever able to sleep properly, and then doing businesses where you just kind of wake up and get kicked in the dick every day 1,000 times, and then wake up the next day and get kicked in the dick again for 1,000 times. And after getting kicked in the dick so many times, you just know what that feels like, and you're just like, well, what's the worst that can happen, you know? And I think that's made me become a little bit more of a kind of, I don't know, a bit more settled and a bit more kind of confident in myself. And
yes, confidence sells.
I think that's people do say that, like that when I say, for example, that, you know, I have anxiety or that I was a really shy kid, I think people have a tough time believing that now because of the way things have become. You know, because I think you can tell when somebody's anxious or nervous. And
Absolutely.
I think that now it's less visible for me, and that makes people kind of think that that's always been the case, where it most definitely hasn't.
And you want to be around people like that. Like you want to be around people who gives you a positive vibe.
Sure, yeah. There's nothing that makes me want to kill somebody more than negative people, whether they're anxious or not, you know. I have no time for that shit, man. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
That's one thing that helped you build the confidence.
Well, yeah, I think that, you know, people often say, or I mean, I know it of myself that I'm always doing stuff. Like I have this schedule, and I keep to it pretty consistently, and I know what that is. That's a tool for me to get away from that anxiety and that doubt. You know, like I was born with, you know, this kind of being unsure of yourself,
Right.
myself, and to get away from that and to feel confident, I know that my tool to get through that is to work on stuff and when I kind of, you know, music was great for that, but music is also really a sensitive pursuit. Like you can never, I don't know, I never really got to the point in music where I was really confident in my abilities, and that made it quite hard.
Okay.
But then with Japanese, I think I got to the point where I was like, oh fuck, wait, I can actually kind of do this now. Like I can kind of do all the things that I hoped I could. And then with the business, like this place is we're in the school right now, but like it's, I don't know, it really came together, and I'm really happy with the ideas behind it and the kind of philosophies that it came to represent.
It's a neat looking school too.
Yeah, well, it does look
relaxed.
really pretty. Yeah, I was, I don't know, I was kind of told from the beginning to make it in a way that I'll never have to remake it. So the design, you know, I spent so much time on the design, and even before it was given to an architect, it was, it was worked out to the bolts, and like, yeah, I don't know. It was a thing that didn't exist that I felt like it should. And of all the business kind of ideas that I had, it was the one that was close to my own experience, and also, I was fairly confident in it. And I still think that it's a really good idea. It's just for the amount of money that it charges, and for the amount of kind of expectations that people have when they come in, it supplies a lot, and it really does quite literally change people's lives.
Okay.
Not all the time, but sometimes. Yeah.
Last time I saw you, I was invited to this place to hang out with you and other two friends.
Yep.
And that's when I had probably conversation with you guys. And even though you and different people, those people in a different kind of place in life, I always felt like you kind of made sure to adjust to that person. You talk really nice. Like,
sure.
I wanted to know, like, what's the
yeah, I mean, that is something that, I mean, it may seem that way, but that's also a little bit not true, because you happen to meet me when I was with people who I really enjoy.
Oh, okay.
Those two people are people I really like. I'm not great at adjusting so far.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a small talk person, and I'm not good at making people feel comfortable when they're not my kind of people. And I think as I get older, I'm less and less nice to people who I don't like. And I think for me, that's a good thing, because I get really tired around people, and I mean, I never seem rude. That's not true either.
Sure, I've never seen this.
Oh, well, if somebody's really, like, gross or really, I don't know, there are a few people, and unfortunately since I've come to Japan, I've met a lot more of them. Usually foreigners that I just...
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Just because they come here and some things don't translate, and they, back in their own country, if they said the things they were saying, somebody would step out and punch them in the face, and that doesn't happen here.
Okay.
So I do go out of my way to be a little bit rude to those people, because I think they need that to keep themselves in check. And, people who know me well have seen that. And I mean, I'm never aggressive, I'm never, like, mean just for being mean, but I think it's important to say shit to people when they
deserve them.
Yeah. But no, I mean, yeah, like, I don't need to change myself very much to talk to the people you're talking about, because they're lovely people, and
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. Like, an example of when I do change myself a little bit is when when I'm working and I'm with students, because there's a certain version of me that will benefit them more than the normal fucking straight version of me, which is a bit frightening for them, to be honest. But yeah.
And it's good for your business if you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I still want students to have a certain amount of, like, experiences that they would never have otherwise. I mean, students would never experience, for example, as Japanese people, they don't know drug culture, they don't know, like, violence culture, and all this stuff. So I bring that up. If that comes up, say, in a TV show we're watching, then I will sit them down and say, look, you guys have this idea about drugs. Where I'm from, this is the way we think about drugs.
Yeah.
And so you should learn some more opinions and then make your own opinion. And that happens in lots of subjects quite often. And that's a way that I would change myself a little bit. Like, I don't talk about drugs a lot, like, say, with my friends or with people who don't, it doesn't come up naturally. I wouldn't, pull them aside and say, this is what I think about drugs. But, like, with Japanese people, I think, especially because it's such an isolated country, I think that it's important that they get exposed to some things that perhaps they're not getting exposed to in their day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
And I think if this place can be even a little bit of that, that would be, a good thing for it to do. So when I choose things for them to watch, I'm not choosing stuff that, I know that they'll like. I mean, I'm choosing stuff that I think that they'll like, but I'm also choosing stuff that's a bit extreme. So instead of choosing like watching like something like a Korean drama or some kind of American like 90s comedy, I'm choosing modern stuff like I'm making them watch Rick and Morty or like
sweet,
like really like full on Eastern European documentaries that are like fairly hard hitting, or like chef TV shows where they're just slitting the throats of chickens and shit. Like, I mean, not too far, and I have to judge it kind of case by case. But I want this place to expose people to things that they've not otherwise seen, and I think that's one of my jobs here. Yeah, I think I've always thought about that, and for that I do change kind of my version to a version of myself that is a bit different from the one that I would bring out with my close friends or something like that.
Yeah, I really love those people. But you struck me as I'm not sure if it's a gesture or whatever that you're doing. I'm not sure what it exactly is, but you strike me as a person who came out like way too nice in my eyes. Because like when I meet people like that, I would think like, what do you want from me?
Sure, okay.
And I have a couple of friends now that from the beginning they're like always super smiley and come at me like I can offer you anything, and like I'm not gonna want anything in return. So I always get suspicious. I was like, is this guy one of those people, or it just genuinely nice?
I mean, I would never.
That was my question.
Sure, I would never say that I'm a nice person. Not at all.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't go out of my way to hurt people. There's no way I'm that person either. I mean, what you're talking about, like, I think I'm fairly myself most of the time, and there are people who don't kind of like that. And I completely understand. I've always been a person who has chosen to be surrounded by a very small percentage of the population. I don't expect most people to. I don't know. I'm a fairly weird dude, and I don't get along with everyone. And I'm also somebody who can't spend a lot of time with pretty much any one person. I kind of have the thing where I need to spend at least half of the day every day by myself.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, of course there are people who I think I could probably spend even now like long periods of time with and not kind of get that kind of weird static electricity thing. But I mean, I have very, very good friends who I can be myself around all the time, and probably we could be together for a really long time. But for the most part, I think I choose to spend at least half of my waking hours by myself, and I think that will always be the case. But yeah, like what you're talking about, people who seem happy and smiley and then turn out to just want shit. I've been very lucky that I've been exposed to so many of those people over the years, and even have them, in my family and siblings. And I'm a pretty good. I think I have a pretty good fucking like bullshit meter.
You can sense them.
Yeah, I'm one of my very, very few skills in life is reading people, and and I think that especially now, I can pretty much tell, what pattern a person is when I meet them. I'm like, oh, this is like pattern F and this is pattern Z, and I think that perhaps the reason I came across as a bit overly friendly, or like more friendly than you thought when I met you, is because I knew the kind of person you were when I met you.
What do you think what I was?
Well, you're very similar to people in my family is the thing. Like, say, for example, my little brother, who was kind of a shy little kid who found himself and found his own clique, and then just, filled his life out from being somebody who was also quite anxious but much more pure than I was, and much more kind of giving.
I see.
went on to find his world and then work really, really hard to get all the things that he wanted. And he has the same kind of, I'm sure that he has the same kind of weird kind of, we both had the same childhood. So we both have a fair amount of, fucked up things, but like, I don't know, it's because you're a kind of a slightly different version of the people that I know since,
Really?
when I was a kid, yeah. That's how I felt, anyway.
At what point did you feel that way?
Instantly.
Instantly?
Yeah.
Like the last time I saw you or the first time I met you?
Oh, even just seeing pictures of you on the internet, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't know, I think that if you're somebody who grew up outside the normal kind of society,
Right.
You get pretty good at spotting people who have similar elements.
That's true.
Yeah. You can when that guy probably has the same kind of set of shit that I have, like yeah. I don't know, I just got that feeling. Not sure.
Oh, cool.
I mean, you can never say that, definitively, but
No, it's just the vibe you got.
yeah, yeah.
What would you say? So I want to. Are you looking for like students to come? The new
Oh, of
students?
course. I mean,
always.
always looking for students. This place, it's been a bit, I'm sure it's been tough for everyone, but a year and a half into Corona and now, me and I think I've had the opportunity to chat with kind of other people who are doing similar kind of things, and they're all just saying new students aren't coming in or haven't come in.
Okay.
Actually, just the last few weeks, I've been getting a few people coming in for the first time in ages, and they're really kind of people that this place is built for, which means I think that people are starting to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel.
What is the what are the age range for
Yeah.
this place?
So this place, it's mostly people in their 20s and 30s.
Okay.
And it's mostly women, just because of the way Japan works.
What?
Just because of the kind of social pressures. I think that, I don't know, I feel like, to be honest, I've never really 100% understood why it's the women who tend to feel that attraction towards Western culture and learning English.
Okay.
The guys who are here usually are more like straight up, I want to use it in business kind of shit. Whereas the girls are more like, I travel or I want...
Interesting.
I think that, I'm not sure, but like, I think especially women here feel a need to be more involved in foreign culture, and which I think is definitely a positive thing. I think all the cultures that you can touch, you should get out there and consume as much as you can. But definitely here, there's no reason why more women would come than men from this perspective.
Sure.
But I would say that 90% of the students right now are women, and it's not like half men, half women came in and then the men quit. It's like, even from the very first stages, it's mostly women, which is a bit, I don't know, I've never really understood why that's the case, to be honest, but
maybe the platform you promoted has more people and stuff like that contribute to that fact too, maybe.
Well, most of the people...
What do you promote?
Well, there have been times where I've done Instagram and shit, but I've never really been that serious about that stuff. It has a website, and I'd say 90% of the students find it through the website. So that just means that more women are typing into Google, Himeji, Eikaiwa, blah, 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 blah. Which is probably some cultural phenomenon that I'm not really fully aware of.
Okay.
But, this place, the one thing that is an overriding theme is that for the most part, they're all really lovely people. Like, the people who tend to come here and end up looking for a place that looks like, what this is, and sees, pictures of events and shit like that. Like, they just tend to be really straight up friendly people. That's been one thing that I didn't quite expect that has made it really easy. You know, because when I made this place, there were certain kind of things that I wanted to be. I mean, to be honest, it's for the most part an English school, but the English was only one part of what I wanted to do. I think I've always thought of this place as a cross between something like Eikaiwa, which I hate the whole idea of. It's a fucking terrible industry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's disgusting. It's a completely non-functional system. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense from any standpoint.
What? I don't understand. Could you elaborate?
I mean, you speak amazing English, and that means that you know how much work it takes to learn English. You can't do that in an hour a week.
Oh no.
No, it's completely impossible. But Eikaiwa will never tell you that because they want the money.
Yeah.
You know, they give off this fucking idea that 1 hour a week you pay us the money and we give you English, which is just fucking ridiculous. And I mean, it's partly the customers, you know, feigning ignorance, and you know, there's that part of it. But I just think if you give a non-complete system, as you know, you have to give students at least the option to put in the work to get to where they want to go. And I think that Eikaiwa in general, and I'm sure there's exceptions to this rule, but I feel like it's not a complete system and it's not well thought out, and they're using textbooks and these really outdated systems where technology exists. I mean, most of them don't even have a computer in the classroom, which is fucking ridiculous.
Okay. Never thought of that.
Yeah, well, it's just...
I have no idea. I study myself.
I don't know. It's like you have all these amazing, like, scientific, like, well thought out study methods.
Right.
And I just feel like, you know, instead of using the smartphones and all the things that are at their disposal, all these big companies are just fucking getting students to stab themselves in the eye with a fork. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just moved on since then. And it's always made me angry. Sorry, that was a very negative little turn for that conversation.
No, good to know. Inside information. I've never.
Well, I suppose another way to
heard of that.
Kind of put it into perspective is I went to some Japanese classes when I first came to Japan, and they were the same. Like not good,
I see.
Not well thought out, not entertaining, and just not containing a lot of nutritional value, and that. You know, and then I went away and I learned it in my own way, and I found out what language learning could be, and it was beautiful. Like the things that I used to learn my Japanese were some of the most fascinating pieces of media that I'll ever read in my life, and that's how I learned Japanese, and that's a very different beast.
Okay.
And if that's on the table, why the fuck would you go to these classes where they're using textbooks that are just made to make money, you know, and that it's not like you can use some of the most interesting things that people have created to study a language, and it's one of the only subjects that you can do that with. I mean, you can't study maths by watching Netflix, but you can study English or any other language. You can study Arabic by, you know, reading cookbooks. I mean, why wouldn't you do that, you know? And most of the people who I meet who are really good at language, they've done something similar to that.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that's, you know, a lot of it's to do with the motivation to keep going and shit like that. But anyway, so I wanted this place to be based on those ideas. The lessons from the very start, the lessons themselves are built in a way where they're intrinsically fun, but also are using materials, not textbooks, not anything that's being made for language learners.
Okay.
They're using Netflix, and they're using ideas and concepts that are purely based on how to become a really good speaker from the learner's perspective, not from the teacher's perspective. Because another thing that's fucked up about language schools is they're made so that they're easy to teach because they have such high teacher turnovers that the formats have to be fairly rigid so that teachers can be replaced easily. Easy to teach, like you get a chapter, the chapter has these words, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's not interesting, but it's easier to teach. And it's easier to test, of course, as well. You know, the second you say, okay, well now I'm going to learn, you know, do a lesson that's entirely based on Chef's Table on Netflix, like it's harder to build a system around that. But once you do, it opens up the possibility for endless self-study. So basically, this place has its own study kind of philosophy and method, which is based on self-study and then is supported through the lessons. And then around those lessons, there's a system where students can come here whenever they want. And it's like a training gym at that point where you can come as much as you like, and reflective of that, you can improve as much as you know, invest.
Interesting.
And yeah, that's why this place has this open space, which for me should have been something that any school had to begin with. Like, there's no reason why every school doesn't have a space where students can come and get away from their family and Japanese TV and just spend the time they need to get good at the language.
And I mean, the most of the place is the open space.
Yeah, so the classrooms are as small as they can be.
Classroom is that, right?
There's 3 classrooms.
Oh, 3, okay.
And they're, you know, I didn't want to ever make the lessons bigger than 6 people, so it's the smallest possible space in which you can teach 6 people, basically.
Okay.
And then, yeah, this open space is the main area, and it's kind of like it's like an abstraction of a cafe or like you know, a comfortable space. And it also has silly parts because I didn't want to make it a serious thing, so it has like the place where you can sleep if you want to, and then it has like these little places where you can be by yourself and
Small people.
yeah, and it has all kinds of crazy dumb shit that I put in here just to make it fun for myself. And yeah, but basically, so the elements of it are it's an English school with lessons, and then we do a ton of events on purpose, and that's to kind of just mush people together, because as an adult, kind of myself, I realize how difficult it is to meet people. And,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you know, it's, you know, you meet friends through school, and then you meet some people through work perhaps, but apart from that, you know, especially for me as somebody who's kind of just being cut off from all his social group by coming to Japan,
Yeah.
and realizing how hard it is to go out and find kind of like-minded people. I think I really wanted this place to be a place where I go out of my way to introduce people to each other who I think I know will get along, and the events are kind of to that end. I mean,
nice.
they're not necessary. They're not, you know, a necessary part of an English learning environment, but
That definitely helps.
oh, I think the motivation to keep going is there's some parts of it, you know, within that, but also my favorite part of this place, and it shouldn't be the favorite part, but it is when I hear from my friends who own bars or restaurants that a big group of Fox students came in, and I didn't know. That's my favorite thing.
You didn't.
I didn't know that they were doing that.
Okay.
And that happens very often.
What
Where
do you mean, like people who come here, hang out outside here
yeah,
as well? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's to be honest, that's the thing that really.
Creating community.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and people know each other, and I've had people say, you know, the best friend I have is the friend I found at Fox, and I've heard that a lot. And I mean, I love language learning, and I really enjoy myself, like studying, and I like teaching to a certain degree as well. But more than anything, that's the thing that really kind of made me feel satisfied in what I created through this place.
Cool.
And other things, like I sent a student, you know, I've sent students to Australia to stay with my family, or
Yeah.
One student went on tour with my little brother's death metal group.
Yeah. You told me.
Yeah, and that's just nuts. Like
Shout
that.
out to that band. What band is that?
Maniacs. Yeah.
Maniacs from
From Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne, Australia. Maniacs.
Yeah, like, I don't know, just you can see the impact you're having in some people's lives, especially the people who come here every day.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was in English speaking Eikaiwa cafe.
Sure.
That way people come and just talk to you. It's supposed to be you can come here and talk to native speakers or whatever, but they're looking for somebody like it was an emergency, so I was hired and I talked to all these Japanese people who come and talk, and that I wasn't a teacher, I was just talking to them, but
Sure.
that kind of created the community.
Yeah.
And I felt like I contributed to that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I kind of know that feeling. It's,
I think, and people don't realize they want that. Like, the thing is that I suppose when you make any business, you have to look at what the actual needs of the actual people are. And when I sat down to think what kind of needs I wanted to satisfy in making this place, I mean, people want to learn English, but the truth of it is that they just want that they want to touch foreignness, and they want to be exposed to things that they're not exposed to. And, especially Japanese people, what they understand of Western culture has been brought to them through the media of movies and television.
Yeah.
And if you judge a culture only by movies and television, it looks like an ideal version of itself. So, Japanese people, and perhaps especially Japanese women, see these like idealized versions of Western culture, and they think, oh, I want to be a part of that. And I completely understand why that would be the case, but you can, in making a business that says it's a language school, you can give people parts of the things that they really need in their lives. Like, you can expose them to ideas that there's no other way they can get, and I think that's, for me, what is really fascinating. And when I feel satisfaction and when I feel like I'm doing the right thing, usually it's something tied towards those kinds of things. I see a student become really interested in a certain thing that I've shown them, like a drama or a TV show, or I see, somebody start to pick up and start to come every day and start to kind of feel confidence in what, English as a skill. Or I see, people kind of finding the people that they hope that they would find as an adult, that they can hang out with and that they can be themselves with. And I think that especially because, I don't know, I find that it's more the case in Japan that people aren't getting that kind of satisfaction through their work.
Yeah.
Because they're less selfish in their choices through life.
Yeah.
I think that atmosphere of somewhere that's just for yourself can be such a powerful tool, and I hope that that Fox can be that, and that it can be that more and more for more and more people.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what I kind of always hoped it would be.
Like how it goes. So I work at a very famous sightseeing place, and they actually want to study English. They went to like Nova and all these schools, and they always complain about stuff. And I'm gonna. Do you have flyers?
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna give away. They are a little older. You think still that it would be easier for them to learn here than to go to all these different places? What do you think? They're not like in 20s or 30s, but they
sure. Look, I mean, I've had students from every age. I mean, this place is a little bit more technology based than other places.
Right.
So, I mean, not that I'm forcing people to use stuff that they're not comfortable with, but, I've had older students in the past, and I think that, I mean, even if you take away a lot of the places, like the technology and all that stuff, this place, like something like Nova or ECC or any of those places, they're just money factories, and
sure.
I'm sure that there's good things they do, and things, people bring away stuff that's really valuable for them and all that stuff, but a lot of them have like, more than 10 people per lesson, and like the teachers have, the one thing that really annoys me about Eikaiwa especially is that almost nobody involved with those businesses has studied to a completely fluent level.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I mean, the teachers, for the most part, don't speak fluent Japanese. And the staff, occasionally speak fluent English. But, I mean, to be taught a skill by a non-professional is weird.
Okay.
Like, if you get told by somebody, you should study in this way, or you should try to acquire this skill in this way, when they don't have that skill themselves.
Well, have no experience in trying to achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, why would you listen to that person or that place? It just doesn't make sense. Like, and especially because, for the most part, those places have a textbook and a curriculum that there's no way in the world you can get fluent by using it. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I definitely have confidence that even older people can study here and get to where they want to be. I mean, I've had students in the past that were started to study English since retiring and became motherfuckers just because they spent so much time doing it.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I think people are caught up on, I'm too old to study and all that shit.
Yeah,
it's fucking bullshit. It's such a stupid idea. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way that if you put the child version of me and me now in a room that I won't learn language faster. There's no way.
Think so?
Of course. I just have so many more skills than that little motherfucker. Like I'd kill him. There's no way. But people they like easy excuses because you have to put in the work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excuse.
And it's just time. It just takes time. That's the only thing. It takes time. Yeah.
I would definitely recommend this place, but would you? So, a lot of my coworkers would love to do that, but they're not like fluent. They're not advanced enough to understand this conversation. So, would you mind like saying what kind of place this is, and like if you were to promote this place in Japanese, would you say that?
Yeah, of course. Just give me a sec. I've got to
Yeah, of
switch over.
course. Switch the
Fucking
brain.
weird.
I know what it's like.
要するに、なんていうか、僕が日本語を勉強した時、やっぱり挫折が多かった最初。で、やっぱり方法が、自信なかったら、やっぱり進まないし、面白くないし、で、ここは、僕が真面目に勉強した時、てか、自分っぽい勉強法を見つけた時、結構3年間、頑張ったらものにはなったから逆にじゃあどういうところを、僕にあってほしかった探した時にこんなところがあったら僕も勉強できたのにっていう考え方から、じゃあ生徒さんに何があってほしい何があったら本当にもうとことんまでいけるかって考えるようになっていつの間にかこういうことになってしまってなってしまったもう本当に頑張りたい人の言語学のトレーニングジムみたいな感じ、だからムキムキになりたい人はちゃんとムキムキになる、そうだから週一の、楽しい英会話のレッスン通いたい人はもちろんたくさんいるけどやっぱり海外行きたいとか映画を字幕なしで見たいとかよっぽどの投資をしてそのスキルとして英語がどうしても欲しいっていう人のサポートをとことんまでやるつもりでいる、って感じ。
Thank you.
That's it. There we go. Became a Japanese dude for a little bit.
I understand the switch thingy. Like I would be speaking Japanese to one visitor and different person talk to me in English and I have to do this bit switch and I suddenly start speaking like Japanese who just started studying English. I don't do that. That happens.
The weird thing about it now is because I always do one or the other, but also when I studied Japanese, about halfway through I switched into doing Japanese dictionaries, like
yeah.
So
same, I did that.
Yeah,
in English.
it's such a valuable thing because it's like at the beginning it's like you're bringing up a child version of yourself who is that. Like I was raising a Japanese version of myself, and then when you switch to Japanese dictionaries, it's like you say, okay, well you're big enough to kind of do shit by yourself. So I'm not going to help you anymore. You just go out and do your own shit.
Okay.
And because of that, they're not really connected. Like the weird thing is that people, when I'm speaking Japanese or especially when I'm speaking Japanese, they say, what's this word in English? And in that moment, I really can't figure it out. People ask me stuff or people. I have a wonderful friend who can speak both at the same time. Like using only Japanese grammar with English words or the opposite. And I can't understand what the fuck he's saying. Everybody around me can understand him, but it completely destroys me in some weird way. And he knows it, and he laughs and he loves doing it because of that. But they're very divorced, my two selves. And that switch is getting harder and harder as I get older, and especially now that the weird one is I've been studying Spanish for years, and when I'm studying Spanish or thinking in Spanish, I can't understand Japanese at all. I can't speak, I can't think.
Yeah.
It just switches the whole thing off. Like it's
Yeah, I see.
bizarre. Yeah, that's a kind of a new experience for me. And to be honest, it's a little bit frightening. Like I walk my dog sometimes and listen to Spanish radio, and another dog owner who I hate talking to, by the way, but they come up to me and say, "Hey, what type of dog is your little dog?" And I'm like,
Dog talk.
I can't fucking do it. I can't fucking do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go. But do you want to promote your pages like Instagram or whatever, like at Fox?
Sure. I might just have to pull up the what they're actually called because I'll make
Also the
mistakes.
panda stuff that you do.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a more recent one. Fox English, the school is called, on Instagram it's Fox English Himeji, all one word in lowercase. And then the cafe, which is like a cool cafe that has good breakfasts and lots of alcohol and good coffee.
And they have smoothies.
Yeah, and we have smoothies and lots of gin. And I think it's a good place. That's called Smash Shimeji on Instagram. And then recently I've been doing picture books a little bit more, and that's on Instagram. That's Otimu, which is Otimu.
Timu.
It's one of the only nicknames I've ever had is Otimu.
Otimu. Who gave you that?
My friend, the same friend
Okay.
who fucks with my head with the language thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think I want to keep, making kind of a positive output of things. I mean, I've got a lot of other businesses that I want to make as well, and hopefully, my idea has always been to kind of build the things that I wanted to go to that didn't exist. And I have a place to study now, and I have a place where I can steal coffee, and hopefully, the other parts of my life will gradually be filled in by the businesses I make. And then I'll just have this nest of things, and I can live inside this little bubble. And yeah,
That's awesome.
That's my
Yeah,
plan.
every time I pass by, I see you sitting right there.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Looking out at the world and feeling glad that I'm
Like
not
a
part
student, but you're the owner. All right, thank you, Tim. And
Hello.
I hope to hang out with you soon.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good,
All right,
man.
cool.
Good to talk.